Okay, hi. So I'm recording this especially for Jen because she asked in the session that we've just had purely practice, and she's asked about how we remember the heart. Um, and my advice is that if you are remembering all of the heart, then you are giving yourself too big a job. We don't have to remember it. We have to remember a few key bits of information, and that is going to help us to build the rest of the heart. So by that I mean some of the things to remember are that the heart has four chambers. So we're going to draw the heart. I'm going to draw it quite simply like this with four chambers. The next thing we're going to remember is that the heart is drawn as though we were lying on the piece of paper. So the right side of the heart is here. So it's as though we were lying on that paper looking up. That right hand side would be the right. So it looks wrong as we look at it. It's the other way around. Right is there, left is here. So we've got the four chambers, we've got the right, we've got the left. The ones at the top are the atria. The ones at the bottom, getting carried away there, the ones at the bottom are the ventricles. So we've got the right and the left atrium. And the left atrium, and we've got the left and the right ventricle. So really, the thing that you are remembering is the name atrium and the name ventricle. The atrium at the top, the ventricle are at the bottom. A is the first letter of the alphabet. It's always nice and high at the top. A, V towards the end, that can get to the bottom. A at the top, B at the bottom. Okay, then there is one key piece of information that we want to remember, and that is that the left has a thick wall. And this is going to help us to put the rest of our knowledge around, because actually in biology, everything is designed in a specific way to do a specific job. So the thick wall of that left ventricle is designed so that it can pump that blood really hard. And we know the heart pumps blood to the lungs and to the body. And if we're going to pump it really hard, we're going to want to pump it to the body because the body is much bigger than our lungs, and our toes, for example, are much further away than our lungs. So we're going to pump that blood to the body from this thick part. So therefore, we know that the bit we're remembering is that it's got a thick wall, and then the logic is that means it's going to the body. So we can draw from here the path of the blood out of that ventricle to the body. So we're putting in there that it's going to the body. If it's going to the body is using that oxygen that's in it. So it has oxygen to deliver. It's going to take that oxygen to deliver it. So if it's got oxygen to deliver, when it came into the left ventricle from the left atrium, it must have had oxygen in it. And so then when it came in to the left atrium, it must have had oxygen. And if it had oxygen, that must mean it's come from the lungs. So can you see that instead of remembering stuff, I'm building up a logical puzzle? Hang on, it's come from the lungs. So it's got oxygen because the lungs is where gas exchange happens. We breathe the air in, we get the oxygen out of the air, goes into our blood. So it's coming in that way. We also then can label that, because what we're going to learn is one piece of information, that the word pulmonary equals lungs. So if it's come from the lungs, it's pulmonary, and it's coming in to the heart, so it's a vein. I'll touch on that in a second. So we've already labeled loads of stuff. We've already labeled the pulmonary vein, the left atrium, the left ventricle. We're going to the body through a vessel, and that vessel is called the aorta. Now, this aorta, that is the one that's pumping, the blood's been pumped really hard. The aorta is the one in classic horror film. The aorta is what gets cut. This is the one that squirts blood everywhere. That's our aorta. That's our important blood vessel. When it's gone to the body, it then has to come back to the heart. And it's going to come in this side to the atrium because the atrium receive. So it's gone to the body, gone all the way round the body. It's dropped off its oxygen. So now we've got no oxygen and it's returning from the body. It goes into that atrium. It then obviously has to go from the atrium into the ventricle. So we know that it goes through there. And from that ventricle, it needs to be pumped back out again. And it's got no oxygen. So it must be going to the lungs. Get oxygen. So because it's lungs, it's pulmonary and it's going away from the heart. So it's an artery. So some of the information we can remember here is that an artery is away from the heart. And that is like an archer throwing an arrow, like a bow and arrow. They pull back and the arrow goes away. So when we think of artery, we think of arrow, we think of away. So we can name this pulmonary artery not from memory, but because we know it's to do with the lungs and it's going away from the heart. We can name the pulmonary vein because it's to do with the lungs and it's not the artery, it has to be the vein, it's coming back. And we can remember that veins have valves and valve stop the backwards flow. So if they're stopping the backwards flow, they're coming back, they're going back into the heart. So we've got our pulmonary vein. We've already labelled our atrium, we've already labelled our ventricle. We go out to the aorta because that is the really dramatic one that we have in all the horror films that pumps blood everywhere. You cut someone's neck, it's their aorta, blurts out everywhere. The other one coming back from the body is the vena, like vein, coming back, vena cava. And that's all you have really. So you've got it all in there. It's just a matter of figuring it out and following it around because it looks so complicated. Actually, if you break it down, all you really need are 4 chambers and 4 vessels. And you're knowing that they are going to go to the body or to the heart. You've got 4 chambers, the right and left atrium, the right and left ventricle, and then you've got 4 vessels, the vena cava, the aorta, the pulmonary vein, and the pulmonary artery. And the key thing that all hinged off is the fact that the left ventricle has got this thick wall so that it can pump the blood around the body. All right, I'll leave that there.